Hello and happy signing day, everybody, here on the Mountaineers Now YouTube channel and here on our site as well. I'm Schuyler Callihan, and we'll be breaking down West Virginia's 2023 signing class. 17 members have already sent in their national letters of intent, and that means that there are still a few spots remaining that may be waiting for February until they sign and make it official. But we've got an action-packed show for you here today. We've got a couple of interviews with wide receiver Rodney Gallagher, big-time crown jewel of the class, as many believe, and I will believe as well, maybe one of the top receivers in the country. And we've also have Jahiem White, running back signee, who will be interviewed by no other than former West Virginia running back himself, Eugene Napoelone. And then I'm also going to be joined by Christopher Hall, co-publisher on Mountaineers Now also. So we've got a ton of stuff to get to. Hang tight just a couple of seconds while we get Rodney Gallagher in here, and we'll start this show the right way. What a way to start off our signing day special here on Mountaineers Now. And we're going to do that with West Virginia signee wide receiver Rodney Gallagher III. Rodney, thank you for taking out the time out of your celebration, and congratulations, first of all, for finally becoming a Mountaineer.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
So let's go back all the way to the early stages of your recruitment. What was that like? Was it what you expected? Was there things about recruiting that were kind of out of left field for you that you weren't really prepared for? Just kind of talk about the ins and outs of the recruiting.
Yeah, definitely surprising. I really wasn't too sure if I wanted to play football freshman year, and having a pretty good year. Um, I mean, all the schools that came to me kind of in the middle of around now, in January, in the middle of basketball season, I really didn't know how to act, and I wasn't too sure of really what was really going on. And after I talked to these coaches and stuff like that, I mean, just me getting older and older, it kind of got stressful, and just trying to figure out what school I really wanted to go to and taking all these different visits. But I still had a great time doing it, and building relationships with all these different coaches, and you get to learn a lot from that. So I had a great time with it.
Yeah, you talked about building these relationships with coaches. A lot of people may not know you were actually recruited to play basketball too,
hmm
from not only West Virginia but other places too.
hmm
How many times did you get to talk to Bob Huggins, and what were those conversations like?
Yeah, a couple times. Bob, he's a chill guy. He only's really crazy on the court. So he's laid back. I got to talk to him there and there. But when the guy I really talked to was Coach Martin when he was on the staff. So another good guy, built a relationship. So shout out to them guys too.
Were you ever close to officially playing both sports at WVU, or was it always, I'm just going to stick to one, and whichever one I'm going to do is that's what I'm going to stick with?
At one point, I mean, I was really, really, really thinking about doing it, but then I just really figured out that's not going to be possible. So just with my body just coming off a football season, there's just no way. So I just wanted to give my body a rest and stuff like that, and get back to training and just focusing on one sport.
And you're from Uniontown, PA, obviously not too far from Morgantown. You grew up a West Virginia fan. You went to games as a kid. Just what does it mean to you to be able to kind of fulfill that dream, and going from watching them as a kid and as a fan to now you're going to be suiting up for them as early as next fall?
Yeah, I mean, it means a ton. I've worked for it, and it really hasn't kicked in yet. But I think once I step on that field and just look around and stuff like that, that feeling I'll get, I think it will really kick in. And I'm just so excited to get down there and just play college football.
Talk about the recruiting situation with West Virginia. Obviously, there was a lot of uncertainty there
Mhm.
towards the end of the season where the AD got fired. We didn't know what the situation was with Neil Brown, but you remained committed along with a lot of these other guys that signed today. What was it about this staff that you were really excited about and wanted to be a part of what turns the kind of the narrative right now about what the West Virginia football program?
Yeah, one thing about me is I'm loyal, and it was just going to be hard for me to just turn away from Coach Brown and the rest of the guys on the staff, and because I built a best relationship as possible with them, and they've shown me so much love and respect towards me and my family. So, I just was just asking questions, and they gave me as many answers as possible in whatever situation it was. So, really, it was just me being patient and letting it all play out.
Now, when you did go to these trips, you were at WVU on campus multiple times throughout your recruitment. What were some of those talks like? Did they tell you what exactly they wanted to, what the plan was for you when you got to Morgantown? Kind of did they lay out, okay, this is what's going to look like freshman year and so on and so forth, and how they were
Mhm.
going to use you?
Yeah, I mean, they really talked about all of that, how they're going to use me in the offense, stuff like that. And but like one thing about them is like they never changed. Every visit I had was they kept the same attitude, same respect, um, same like type of topic, whatever we were talking about. Nothing changed. So it was just always consistency with them, and that obviously played out a great way with me being committed there.
So, growing up a West Virginia fan, I got to ask you, what was your favorite moment as a WVU fan, either at a game, watching a game, and then who was also your favorite Mountaineer or two?
Yeah, I mean, my greatest moment was just me, just probably just watching Tavon Austin and Geno Smith and Stephen Bailey. Like them three were unreal college football players, and that's what really stood out for me. And then just watching Tavon Austin's mixtape on YouTube, his football mixtapes, just stuff like that that just stands out to me.
Some of the guys that were in last year's class, you probably formed a lot of close relationships with, like Nico Marchiol, I'm sure, and some of those other guys. What have they told you about the program, and how, I guess, excited are they to welcome you guys in?
Yeah, just to stay true to the program, and just work your butt off, and everything will pay off. I'm super excited to play with Nico. Another great kid, and I'm excited about our future together. And we're gonna work our tails off to go be one of the best duos in the country.
And then, kind of to wrap up here, I got to ask you some funny questions. Okay, so
Mhm.
let's talk about some of those other signees in this class. Who is the biggest goofball or kind of goofy guy in this whole signing class? The one that's kind of funny, the prankster. Who's that going to be?
Uh, Man, I'd probably have to say probably Josiah
Josiah.
Jackson. Yeah,
Josiah Jackson. How cool is that the two brothers get to come and play together
that's an unreal moment for their family. I know it is. That's
uh,
big time.
let's go to the most underrated. Who would you say is overlooked the most in this recruiting class?
Jahiem White,
Jahiem, yes, and
no
we're
doubt,
off to Jahiem here in a little bit. So,
no
Eugene,
doubt.
to talk to him as well. Running back that's going to have a good career at West Virginia. Let's talk about the most explosive player in this class.
Um, I'm thinking I'm gonna have to go with Jaheim's definitely up there, but um, I'm gonna have to say either Hurd or Josiah. I have to say,
And then on the
watching their film, I mean, geez,
Josiah Trotter, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Defensively, besides those two, James and Josiah, who else sticks out to you?
Um, I mean, I honestly Ben, super physical. Um, Josiah, the Jackson brothers. I think our defense is gonna be loaded, man. I think like
Yeah.
they really took pride in getting the defense right in this class. I mean, I think we got a ton of great guys coming in on the defense, and our newest commit to explosive.
And then lastly, the receivers that are committed to this or that are signed to West Virginia, Traylon Ray, yourself, Torrey Johnson, and then your quarterback too, Sean Boyd. Just your thoughts on those guys.
Torrey got a chance to be special, man. I'm pretty yeah, his pops played there, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so him super excited about him. Super excited about Traylon, man. I mean, he has so much upside. I can't wait to see what's gonna happen with him. Sean, I've got to watch some of his rivals film, and man, he can spin the ball. So I'm excited about the offense too. I mean, we really got some dogs, man. So I'm just ready.
And last thing before we let you go here is just give your message to the fans as you celebrate signing officially with West Virginia and what they can look forward to when you arrive here pretty soon.
Yeah, a hard worker and a guy that wants to change his program and go win. So that's the type of guy you're gonna get from me.
So there you have it. Rodney Gallagher, West Virginia wide receiver signee. He is in the books. He's going to go celebrate with his family and friends now. So we're going to go ahead and let him go. We'll be back here in just a second. We're going to bring in Christopher Hall. We're going to talk some more about this recruiting class. And again, don't forget later on tonight, on tonight's show, we're going to have Jahiem White, West Virginia running back signee, interviewed by former West Virginia running back Eugene Napoelone. So stay tuned. We'll have some more of that coming up. All right, so good stuff from wide receiver signee Rodney Gallagher to the third, obviously tabbed as the crown jewel of this recruiting class. And as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, we're going to have Jahiem White joining the show here in a little bit. Eugene Napoelone will be breaking down that with him. So let's go ahead and take a look at this class. Let's just get our initial thoughts on this. 17 players have signed their NLI, not their NILs. To West Virginia, Neil Brown just said moments ago that they plan to maybe get one, possibly two more in today, and then they'll have about 8 to 12 spots remaining for transfers. So you see your quarterback Sean Boyle out of Charlotte, North Carolina, bringing in a couple of running backs, DJ Oliver, Jahiem White. The receiving room, you're adding Rodney Gallagher, Torrey Johnson, and Johnson's kind of a tweener, wide receiver, tight end. It's going to be interesting to see how his body fills out and where he ends up playing full time at WVU. And then you've got Traylon Ray, an explosive guy that we'll probably get into here in a little bit. Defensively, though, this is kind of the part that I can't wait to talk about because I think they did a really good job with the defensive side. Defensive end Zachariah Keith, former Georgia Tech commit. Orion Fisher. I actually got that name pronounced correctly now. I kept calling him Orion for the longest time. Orion Fisher, long, lanky guy that's got a lot of pass rush abilities. And then you also have James Hurts, kind of a defensive end linebacker hybrid. Linebacker, big time pickups in this class with Ben Cutter, just a tackling machine. You have, again, James Hurts, as I mentioned, and then Josiah Trotter, son of the former Philadelphia Eagle, Jeremiah Trotter. And then you got the twins in the back end at cornerback, Josiah and Jordan Jackson. So there's the quick look at the class of 2023 for West Virginia. Now we're going to bring in Christopher Hall, co-publisher on the site here at Mountaineers Now. Chris, just your overall thoughts on the class, just getting a good look at these guys. Obviously, you and I spent a lot of time watching film on these guys over the last few days prepping for today. So just kind of give me your thoughts on the general feel about this class.
I mean, honestly, I think if you look at this class outside of the quarterback, you have guys that have a lot of potential to play early, especially defense. You said defensively, you just listed all those defensive guys. Pretty much all those guys will probably be playing special teams year one. And you look at the back end, look how much West Virginia has lost depth. They're going to have to fill in for guys that were just 1 year guys last year. So all those defensive backs probably going to be in the rotation next year, and it is a necessity. But I feel like with this group, they got talent. You know, it's not so much. Yeah, you would like these kids to be in the system a year or two. I think that would be everybody's ideal scenario to have them in the program for a while. But I think what you're going to see with a lot of these defensive guys, Neil Brown mentioned it today, that they're going to have packages for some of these guys. I think it was Hurd is who he named specifically for that. So, yes, these guys, I think, I don't want to say they hit a home run with this recruiting class, but I think what you see with this recruiting class, yes, it's a necessity, but I think you got guys that could fill in regardless if it was necessity or not, that's going to add depth. That's going to be able to attack the quarterback or just be on the back end, maybe in nickel and dime packages as well. You guys have some guys that could be real contributors on defensively and then offensively. We know the situation at receiver too. It just seems like the passing game is one that takes a hit in Morgantown. But Gallagher's the name that everybody talks about. He's obviously a great talent. He's probably going to be a contributor right away. But I am interested in Corey Johnson. He's a guy that they're talking about H-back, tight end, slot receiver, probably going to start off as a slot receiver to start. Very intriguing. Obviously, his father played in Morgantown. I think he's a kid that they may move to tight end, but here's another one that can contribute immediately. He's got a high football IQ, and that's going to go a long way in understanding the offense and being able to get on the field early. So a lot of intrigue with these young guys. I think this is a year where you can actually look. Again, I know we kind of say out of need, but I think you can look and say, all right, this freshman class could have an impact immediately.
Yeah, and when you go back to last year's recruiting class, I think it was last year where Neil said, hey, we're not bringing in, 25, 30 guys, but it was more about the quality of that class. I think you can kind of say the same thing about this year too. I mean, just all up and down the board, from offense to defense, from the front to back, they've got some dudes. And you start watching the tape on some of these kids, take the offers away, because a lot of those offers, as you and I know, all come down to how many camps you go to, who you know, and how often you put yourself out there in terms of going to, not only just these camps, but visits and stuff like that. And Neil Brown talked about one guy that really didn't do a whole lot of that, and that was running back DJ Oliver. My goodness, this kid is a freak. Like 6 foot, 235 pounds. And if you watch him run, I'm telling you, he is almost as every bit as fast as CJ Donaldson and moves very smoothly for as big as he is. That's one kid I cannot wait to see how he translates to the college level. I mean, honestly, I started watching his tape, and he honestly reminded me of Jerome Bettis, like a little bit more smoother of a runner than Jerome. Obviously, Jerome was more of a power guy, and Oliver can do that too. But man, Oliver's one of those guys. But before we get more into some of the intriguing things, you and I touched on this before we hopped on here. How big of a loss was it for West Virginia to lose a guy like Justin Benton to Houston of all schools? To be able to have that guy that was probably going to be in the mix, if not maybe starting by the end of his freshman season. How big of a loss is he?
I think it's a huge loss for this group. West Virginia just lost Jordan Jefferson to the transfer portal, and I was a kid that played at 17 years old here, and
Yeah.
that was kind of need at the time. That it was injuries, kind of attrition before the season, but I think it's not a program killer, obviously, but it was a huge loss for this class. I mean, that was a kid. Yeah, he was going to be in the mix immediately, especially since the departure of Jordan Jefferson. I don't know if he would have started this year, but maybe by the end of the year, if you watch his tape, the kid was all over the field. He was fast. He could bust right through the gap, go untouched. He split the double team quickly. So yeah, it was a big loss to miss Benton on that one. It's a shame because it feels like they had him all the way up until maybe the last few weeks. But kind of like the recruiting when you go after guys like that are talented. I know West Virginia was in on him early, and then it was kind of like, all right, well, now the Blue Bloods are coming in its final season. Texas, I know, jumped in. I think Georgia was kind of poking around a little bit. So ends up at Houston. Obviously, they're going to be in the Big 12 next year and probably get a up close personal look at them here soon.
Yeah, I keep forgetting Houston, Cincinnati, Central Florida, all those guys are moving up to the Big 12. And when we were doing these player profiles, I kept putting them under a group of 5 offers instead of the Power 5, but I had to make that adjustment. So yeah, I mean, losing Justin Benton is definitely a big loss for this class, but still, I love what they did on that defensive line. The guys that they did bring in, Orion Fisher, Zachariah Keith. I even kind of throw James Hurd in there a little bit just because I think he's probably going to play a lot off the edge here, whether it be bandit or whatnot. So, Zach Keith, that's a guy that could really come in and play right away. I mean, you look at him, 6 foot, was he 6'3", 6'2", 250 pounds, just got natural strength, can really press, can really bend. That's a guy that I think can play right away. And Orion Fisher, even though he's probably not going to be as ready to go out of the gate, I think he's a guy long term. And we talk about the transfer portal nowadays and how it's hard for guys to stick around if they're not playing in the first year or two. He's a developmental guy that if he can stick around and is willing to stick around, I think will be an all Big 12 type of player. You look at the long lankiness and the range that he has, terrific pass rusher, but he's not just a pass rusher. He can contain the edge and really help out in the run game. How about the other guys on that defensive side of the ball too that you like besides Keith, besides Fisher? Talk about some of the linebackers.
Well, Hurd, kind of already mentioned him a little bit, to potentially playing early. Kind of could see him on that Linnell Carr path, where you see him just on
That's a good comparison.
second long situations, until they can develop him into a better, until he can better drop into pass coverage. Cutter, tackling machine. Man, that kid's always around the ball, and that's exactly what you want in a linebacker. It'll be interesting to see where he lines up. Probably could see him more as a weak side, kind of cleaning it up, but let's kind of see where he ends up. I also like the Jackson twins. I think you always got twins causing trouble on the back end, right?
Double trouble.
They got a little connection going on. They got length. So I do like that group on the back end, but I really think the one, you mentioned Keith, but I think that probably the one that you may hear early just because he's going to be, a pass rusher is Hurd. You know what I mean? Like they always get the headlines. So it'd be interesting to see how they use him. They've already kind of mentioned that they may have special packages for him, just kind of like how they did Linnell Carr. If you watch his film, he's deceivingly fast off the line. It'll be good to see it once they kind of clean that up. He's a little raw there. Even he kind of looks slow, he still gets back there so quick. So once he kind of fix that, I mean, he could really make a mark there on the back end. If that can translate to the next level, man, they can get his ball get off just a little faster. Man, by the back end of the season, he could be a problem for offense.
Yeah, Josiah Trotter, he's my number one guy in this class, and I know you would have had Justin Benton as your number one guy had he remained with the Mountaineers, but Josiah Trotter, man, like when you flip on the tape, he looks like he's already played 3 years of college football. And a lot of that is because of his background. He grew up in the NFL locker room essentially with his dad, Jeremiah. His brother's playing really good football at Clemson. He comes from a football family. And again, when you show the tape, you don't even have to watch a minute and a half of his tape to really get a true sense of how good of a football player he is. He's very instinctual, takes really good angles. He knows exactly where the plays are going before they even happen. And I hate to really compare players to Hall of Fame caliber NFL players, but when you watch him, it's honestly like some of the same style in terms of like how Luke Kuechly used to play, where he just knew exactly where everything was going. Doesn't matter, run, pass, he was able to sniff it out and diagnose what was going to be happening on said play. So Josiah Trotter, number one player in the class for me. Outside of him, I would probably say Rodney Gallagher, obviously very explosive receiver, probably going to be in the mix as early as year one, unless they go out and make some additions in the portal. Talk about Rodney Gallagher, and then give your thoughts on the two running backs, DJ Oliver, which we already kind of briefly mentioned, and Jahiem White.
Rodney gives you that big playmaking ability that West Virginia has just been craving for. Haven't had a 1,000-yard receiver since Neil Brown's been in Morgantown. And that's stark contrast to what you had previously with Dana. There was playmakers all along the outside every single year. So I think he immediately brings you that. Obviously, he's going to have to get adjusted to the speed of the game and everything, but I think he's a kid that's going to come in immediately and be an impact. But is he going to be a 1,000-yard receiver first year? Probably not, but if he is, that's a huge home run if he is, and he'll have the opportunity. I mean, granted, they're going to go get some probably. I know they brought one wide receiver in off the transfer portal, and they're probably going to get another one, another body or two out there through the transfer portal, and depending on who they get. Gallagher's probably going to be vying for that number one spot. Sounds crazy. As a freshman, the kid is extremely talented.
Yeah,
the sport athlete. He knows how to get it done on the field. If you watch his highlights, I mean, he high points the ball. He's got speed. He's everything you need in a playmaker. They've obviously got two quarterbacks right now, Nico and Garrett, that I feel right now that can get him the ball. So, do really like the Gallagher kid. The running backs, I know you talked um, about DJ Oliver, sneaky steal there. That to me, that's almost like a CJ Donaldson steal. Is he going to have that production as a freshman? Wait and see. We'll see how he does in practice. He's tough guy to bring down at 240 pounds, but Gene White smooth. To, they're so deep at running back. You're like, really, if they didn't have Tony and CJ and Justin and Jalen Anderson, you'd be like, hey, Chief's going to step in and do some things, and they're already planning for him to be on the field. They want maybe 2-3 running backs. They may run up at slot or H back at time, but you may see two of these three kids on the field, and Jaheim's definitely going to be that kid that's going to come in and turn some heads. Amazing athlete, super smooth. So it kind of goes back to how we opened it. There's a lot of young talent on this team, and you just get them in there, get these early grads in there, and get them to understand the offense, speed, and really hone in their fundamentals. And man, it's hard in football because you always project 2 or 3 years down the road.
Hard to do
Kind
that.
of when you get their feet under them, and that's really when you start to see them excel. And you're still excited for that because it takes some time to develop and understand the game. But I think it's going to be exciting to watch them early. With the way the college football is now with NIL, transfer portal, got to get these in kids early. It's going to be interesting to see how they fit in Jahiem White. With Oliver, he's big. You can put him out in front of the tailback, kind of use him as a fullback, H-back. You could see him potentially getting early play time in that role. Jaheim's a guy that can make plays. So they said he can line up at the slot. Be interested to see where that goes with him. Another CJ Donaldson type where he can be a hybrid and kind of line him up a little bit everywhere. CJ, they wanted to get the ball in his hands, so they run the running back. Be interested to see what Jahiem can do day one to see where all they can line him up at.
Yeah, I really like Jaheim's wiggle, and I know Eugene's talked about that to me a lot. He's watched a lot of Jaheim's film, adores him. And I think really what Jahiem pops out on film is his versatility, being able to catch the ball out of the backfield. He can line up in the slot, he can line up outside, he can do things in the backfield, obviously as a running back. I don't he's a guy that I think would be perfect in kind of like that Jock Sanders-ish type role where you can make him be a dynamic piece, whether it be receiver and running back. You can put him in at both spots and then see where he best fits because, like you said, I mean, good God, you got 5-6 running backs back there already. It's already hard enough to split those carries, but you got to get your playmakers on the field. If that's putting him at slot, hell with it. Get him on the field. So I don't know what that's going to look like, but for him, he's got the versatility to be able to do that. DJ Oliver, his thick body's going to be staying in the backfield, so we know where he's going to line up. I want to talk about Sean Boyd. We have to, right? It's the quarterback of the class. Right here in my backyard at Charlotte Catholic, they really don't run a pass heavy offense. In fact, it's quite the opposite. So, like Neil stated in his press conference today, that doesn't have the numbers that probably you would expect to see out of a Power 5 type quarterback, and that's probably why he flew under the radar quite a bit. But man, I tell you what, the kid, when he does get the opportunity to throw the ball, he can spin it and he can thread the needle, put it in the tight window. He's got really good mechanics, really good footwork, got good feel for the pocket. The one thing that really stands out to me is his touch and his release. And I know, and some of the quarterbacks in the past that West Virginia's recruited, they really haven't had that combination where it's almost one or the other for some of those guys that they brought in the last couple of years. For Sean Boyle, I think he's got both of them, and he can also make plays with his feet too. So, I mean, this is an interesting type of quarterback that's probably going to be a developmental guy, but that's a good thing because he doesn't have to come in and play right away as Garrett Green and Nico Markey are already in the system. So, what do you think about Sean Boyle?
He's a bigger, stronger goose.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, you already have Nico, you already have Garrett in the program. Neil Brown talked about they've proven that they can play at this level. This is their team now. They brought in transfers. to kind of bridge the gap until they got their high school quarterback in Nico. Garrett was that first year quarterback. You could say that was that need. And they needed a quarterback in that class. Then they went and got the most competitive guy they found in Garrett, and they pay off this season. So there's not a lot of pressure on Sean right now. He can come in the next couple, 2-3 years, and learn in this system. And like you said, he can throw the ball. He hasn't been asked to do a lot at the high school level. So it's going to be a huge jump for him going into college, especially in an offense that you got to line your guys up right. It's not just necessarily line up, call the play, they're going to run it down your throat. He's going to have to learn how to recognize defenses. So that's really going to be his biggest area that he's going to have to improve upon the next couple of years. Just understanding that, especially the speed of the game, we don't pass a lot at that level, and we saw it with Garrett Green, where he primarily ran. He personally ran the ball, and he didn't know how to put the ball on time, stuff like that. I think the gap for Sean there is a lot closer than it was for Garrett, but he's going to need some time to just kind of learn. 52 yards from sideline to sideline. It's a big difference. That's how you have to play as a quarterback at this level. You have to get the ball out. I think he does have that arm strength, but so much of that is recognized in the corner. You saw JT Daniels get picked off against Kansas on that outside just by missing probably about a half foot, 6 inches.
Yeah.
And that's really where these kids have to separate themselves from the others. So I think he's a 2-year guy. I think this is, like you said, this is a steal to me. He was never going to be a guy that you needed to come in right away with this offense, but I think this is a guy that you have in the program 2-3 years on and learn under guys like Nikio and Garrett. Nikio is a high IQ football mind within the system, so he just learned from a really good football mind in JT Daniels as well. So there's plenty of knowledge within that facilities building that he'll be able to kind of learn and just grow at a good pace where he's not thrusted into a bad situation.
Yeah, I mean, he looks the part. I mean, he really does. You turn on the tape and the throws that he can make. I mean, you can tell there's something there to work with. Again, the biggest hurdle was really when you go from that style of offense to what he's going to go in at West Virginia. It's a big difference. It's almost like going from, I don't even know, algebra 1 to trigonometry, like trying to figure out how to read a defense from that angle and the looks that you're going to get from that angle in the gun or in the pistol or whatever, compared to being under center and dealing with all the motions and options in the backfield that's going on with the running backs. Like, it's going to be a whole different ball game for him, but he's definitely got the talent to make it happen. Let's go ahead and get into some of our under the radar signings, intriguing guys. Obviously, there's a few guys on this list that either didn't have very many offers or that did have offers but weren't heavily recruited by some Power 5 schools. So I'll go first. I'm going to start with Ben Cutter. I love the linebacker out of Denver, North Carolina. Dude is all over the place. I mean, just literally all over the place. He wakes up with 10 tackles. Like, he finds a way to always be around the football. And again, that's a lot of that's instincts. A lot of that is just knowing where to be at the right time. And a lot of it's preparation. And from everything that I've heard about Ben Cutter, he is a film junkie. And I think that's one reason why he's going to be on the field, not only as a true freshman making plays on special teams, but he may work his way into that linebacker rotation as well. So Ben Cutter has got to be the one guy for me outside of I already talked about Orion Fisher, so I don't want to go any deeper on his stuff. What about you?
DJ Oliver, we already talked about him. I think he was the under radar guy. We talked about him. His balance is incredible, but Noah Brand, I like this kid a lot because of his mentality. He's a headhunter on the offensive side, and he's got finesse. It sounds crazy especially if you know his dad, Rich. Mean on the field, and it's translated to his son on the field. He's a mean guy. And he's going to clear some pass for those running backs. It's not only his blocking, but he's got nice hands, and he could really develop into that guy that he could slip out there and hit you big in the passing game, and obviously with his mentality, opening it up in the running game.
Yep. And then so let's go ahead and wrap it up on this segment with the top remaining needs for West Virginia. Now, if we're being honest, you could say it's every single position, especially when you go 5-7. You've had 3 losing seasons in 4 years, but it's a little bit more distinct than that. There's clear needs that this team has. Quarterback, obviously not one of them. You can make that argument and say that it's a need, but what's that?
The first year in forever.
Yeah, for the first year in forever, quarterback is not a need. Neil Brown said they're not going to go after any transfers, rightfully so. They're going to let the young guys battle it out. So, wide receiver obviously is a clear need. They got their top 4 receivers either in the draft or in the portal. So that's a no-brainer there. Where else does this team need help?
Defensive back, you got to go get a corner, at least one, out of that portal. I think that's they still have some young guys in the fold, but confidence could be shaky right now after last season. So I think you got to go and get at least one, probably two. One's probably not going to do it. We saw what happened to Charles Woods last year. One play kind of messes up your whole defensive scheme for the most part. So I think so much of this is in the passing game for West Virginia. You mentioned receiver. I think you got to go corner. I'm such a big, you got to win the line of scrimmage. I wouldn't mind them maybe getting one more D lineman, maybe two. They brought in some guys last year. Mike Alford had a nice season out of Georgia Tech. But I think, it's easy to say, hey, go make a splash in the board, go get a big defensive lineman, go get a big time corner or lockdown corner. It's a lot easier said than done. It's going to be tricky to navigate. Obviously, portal's going to be open up again in the spring, so they may get some late additions from a big time defensive lineman or wide receiver or defensive back out of the portal over the summer. You just never know what may happen in the spring. A kid may want to go somewhere. You just never know what could happen. But I think that's 3 spots where they say need to hit 3 home runs, but for success next season, especially where they start the schedule, open the season, they're going to have to make some big splashes for it.
Yeah, I agree. Receiver, defensive back, you can always add a guy in the trenches. And also, I do want to get your thoughts on this real quick, actually, too, because it's the only guys that we didn't talk about. And that's the offensive lineman, Johnny Williams. Who else we got here? Johnny Williams.
Probably just butchered his name, Nick Cray.
Yeah, Cray. That's what I was trying to figure out the pronunciation. It's Nick Cray. And we have one more on here as well, Cooper Young. Just what did you see? Any one similar trait that you saw in those 3 guys when you watched the film?
Length, size. You're seeing immediately from these guys over 300 coming out of high school. That's a big jump from the previous staff. Obviously, it's a different system. It's not the same scheme, so they want bigger guys, and everyone wants length on the tackle. I think what they look for in the offensive line, they hit it. Those are all 3 guys that could contribute early. I think obviously everybody that comes out of high school needs their footwork cleaned up, but I think this is 3 guys within the next 2 years, and that's a big jump for an offensive line. Next 2 years could be within the rotation. They have all the tools, they have the size. It's just about how fast can they keep up with their footwork, especially at tackle. When you're talking about selling off that edge against the Big 12 defensive, these Big 12 defensive linemen that keep going in the NFL draft. It's a big ask. We saw Yates struggle with it early on in his career. And I think, Johnny Williams can be that kind of Yates guy. But they're going to love him right when he gets on campus. But offensive line, it's hard to get on the field those first couple of years. We saw Wyatt and Zach Frazier, two West Virginia guys, do it. Some of that was out of need. West Virginia's not quite there, but they might need these guys in the rotation next season.
Yeah, there's 2 guys that have not signed as of yet that are committed to the program. At least they haven't signed in terms of the time that we've recorded this. So that's Chris Dawson St. Jean, an offensive tackle, and then Corey McIntyre Jr., another legacy kid, defensive lineman. McIntyre, I believe, from what I was told, is expected to sign in February. St. Jean was kind of up in the air, didn't know if that was going to happen today or in February. So, anyways, that's going to do it for me and Chris for right now. We've actually got Eugene and Jahiem on standby. So, Eugene, go ahead and take it away with the new West Virginia running back signee, Jahiem White.
Appreciate you, Schuyler. Thank you, man. Thank you for hooking this all up. Jahiem White, what up, my guy?
What's up? What's up?
Hey, listen, we have a lot in common. First off, I was checking out your highlights, my dude. I was also a tailback.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I see that you got some wiggle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I see that you got that top end speed.
Yeah.
And what I love about it is you know how to finish the run off. You're not afraid to finish the run off. I love it.
Yes, sir.
I love it. So let me ask you a quick question.
Okay.
What was it like being, first off, the whole recruiting process? What was that like for you?
So like, all right, so personally, like, it wasn't really a big deal for me. I mean, it was like easy because like I was working for it. I was working for everything I got, but I didn't really like want to go through the whole like choosing different schools and all that. Like I just wanted to be locked in, just be ready to just play football for real. Like lock in early with West Virginia and keep it going.
Man, listen, I appreciate that answer because way back in the day, my son did the same exact thing. He followed my steps at WVU back during the 2012 class. He did the same thing, locked in early, and that was that. So I could understand that.
Right.
So through all of the stuff that was going on between the coaching staff and not really being sure what was going to happen with the staff being there, through all the other controversy, did that sway you a little bit? Or are you happy that coach is still there?
Yeah. It didn't sway me at all. Like it didn't offend me. I already knew, like once I committed that I was gonna go and change the program and bring WV back. You know, like with the other commits and all that. Yeah, and like I already knew, like once I locked in with Coach Chad,
yeah,
that's when it was like he fit me. I was locked in, so and I already told him that.
I'm gonna tell you something, young man. I really appreciate that because here's the thing: with all this stuff going on, with the recruitment as it is today, was totally different than what being recruited.
Right.
It's so much distraction, so much noise. When you pick a university, and I checked you out, so I know 3.5 GPA. You are a true student athlete, man, and I love that.
Thank you.
I love the fact that when you make a commitment, I'm sure you made the commitment to the university, not just because of the football program, but because of the university itself.
Yeah. The space, the environment, all that. Yep.
I tell young people that all the time, and what an honor it is to interview someone like yourself, as well as some of the other kids that recruit that are locked in this particular recruiting class, because I know it's going to be special. This is one on paper. This is one of the most highly talented recruiting classes we've had in a long time, and I'm excited to come see you tote that thing, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm excited about it. So, what does it feel like to be a Mountaineer, my guy?
It feels great, man. I ain't gonna lie. I can't wait to get up there, be a part of the whole environment. It's just no better feeling for real to have this opportunity to play. You know, like this is big time. It's real big. Like it's big.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, listen. Hopefully, you get a chance to play for one of these.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah.
That's the whole thing, man. Everywhere I go, let me tell you something, and I don't mind sharing my age with you. I'm 56 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna have something on that has the gold and blue on it. You know, I got a few rings, so I wear my rings.
Yeah,
you know
right. Yeah.
It's the honor of being a Mountaineer that's so important, and I already know that you're going to do this university well. You're going to do your family well. You're going to do where you're from well, and I can't wait to see you play. And more importantly, back, I'm gonna make sure I lock in with you now when you get to Morgantown. I'm in New Jersey, but I'm still gonna make sure I lock in with these running backs because it's important. Us backs got to stick together.
Right. Yeah, right.
Once a Mountaineer, always a Mountaineer, my guy.
Yes, sir.
I got one last question for you.
Okay.
So, what do you think it's going to feel like when you come out of that tunnel?
To be honest, I know it's gonna be like a whole bunch of like nerve, like just nerve built up for real. it's gonna feel good coming out the tunnel. Like at the same time too, because it's like, I did it. You know what I'm saying? I'm here. I can be able to, do what I got to do now. It's like hard to explain for real, but it's a great feeling.
Absolutely. And I know what it felt like for me when you come out for the very first time in that uniform with your name on the back of that jersey.
Yeah.
You're representing your family, yourself, the university, the state of West Virginia. It's surreal. And
right.
it kind of takes your breath away the very first time you do it. So from me to you, just make sure you take a deep breath before you hit the field.
Right.
All right?
Right. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, you're going to have to, trust me, because to take it all in, that surround sound of all the fans cheering your name and you being part of something really special, that's going to be awesome, man. And like I said, I look forward to it. I wish you nothing but the very best. And if you ever need anything, you reach out to me. You understand? Because that's what it's all about. It's all about that support. Welcome to Mountaineer Nation, my guy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes,
No
sir.
doubt.
Highly appreciate it.
Definitely. You take care of yourself, and I'm going to get us back to Schuyler, all right?
All right. Thank you. Have a nice day.
You too.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you as well. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right.
Awesome. Good stuff there from Eugene. Thank you for doing that as well. I know you enjoyed that interview. You've been waiting for a couple of months now to get to talk to Jahiem. He's been one of your favorite recruits throughout this whole process. And also want to thank Rodney and Jahiem both for taking out a little bit of their time in celebration to come on our show here today and talk with us and give the fans just a little bit of sneak peek behind what these two guys are and what some of these young men that the Mountaineers are getting in this 2023 class. So let's take one more last look at this 2023 class once again. Again, all topped off here from the quarterback standpoint. You got Sean Boyd going to come in and be a guy that they can groom, develop behind Nico Marchio and Garrett Green. They got two really good running backs, Jahiem White and DJ Oliver. The receivers, Traylon Ray, Rodney Gallagher, Torrey Johnson, who's kind of a tweener at receiver tight end. You got three offensive linemen, Johnny Williams, Nick Gray, and Cooper Young. And then on the defensive side of the ball, Zachariah Keith, Orion Fisher on the defensive line, linebackers, James Hurd. So Josiah Trotters, again, who I noted as the #1 player in this recruiting class for West Virginia, Ben Cutter, and then you've got the two twins at cornerback, Josiah and Jordan Jackson. So that's going to do it. That will do it for today's show here on the Mountaineers Now Signing Day special. We're going to have some more in-depth stuff coming up here over the next coming weeks and even months as we lead up into spring football. We're going to bring in some of these guys that are part of this 2023 class, like Rodney and Jahiem. We'll get some more interviews for you between now and, let's say, February. So stay tuned for that. Be sure to hit that subscribe button on YouTube at Mountaineers Now. Give us a follow on Twitter at Mountaineers Now. Also, thank you for watching. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, and just everyone stay safe.